Hello everyone. Just wait for some time, see if people are going to join, then we'll start. Hi Rohit.
Hello.
Hello. I believe it is only two of us, so let's make a start. I hope you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So until last day, what we have done is we have looked into the use case. We have imported the data. Then we started looking into some exploration of the data. So we imported the libraries. We read the data. This is where we will spend a lot of time later on, because when we look into SQL, right, this is what we are going to work. Okay, this is what we are going to expand. So this will get expanded into multi facets. We usually will have databases which is going to store the data, right? So there will be multiple things which we will be doing in this case. So that is something that once we complete the regression part, right, we will make a pause. Without going into machine learning, we'll go into data engineering, and we'll look into all these Excel and SQL things and come back. Right. After that, what we did was we loaded the data, we looked into the sample, we looked into the information, and we also started writing notes. First of all, we saw there are not much outliers, because other than the newspaper column in the TV, radio, and sales, they look to be quite fine. But to verify that, we didn't only go by the describe output. We started looking into the distribution for each and every column, right? So and then we looked into what is going on over here. So the one for TV looks good, it's kind of evenly spread across, and the one which is for radio looks okay. I mean, it's not bad, but there is a slant, there's kind of a decline. So there's a lot of concentration on the left hand side as opposed to the right hand side. Right, but then this is also not quite bad. But if you look at the newspaper thing, this is really bad. I mean, there is a frequency of lower numbers in case of the newspaper investments, or newspaper being one of the advertisement channels. A lot of investments are done onto the lesser side, right, which is over here, as opposed to the higher side. So higher side actually has some lesser things, as opposed to as opposed to the lower side, if we compare to the lower side, right? So this is kind of a distribution which is not really normal, which we saw. So newspaper might be a very tricky column to be used. So that's kind of an indication. When you do EDA, you'll come to know what kind of properties the columns will have, which we can keep in mind when we are going to do predictive analytics, right? So, and then we looked into the sales. Now, just to reiterate, we can see that there is a somewhat linear graph, or somewhat linear kind of a thing which is going on over here. Okay, but just to clarify, I think this is not an assumption for linear regression. Okay, because we are trying to expect the value of sale, but we don't expect the value of sales to be normally distributed, or the or numbers to be having kind of a very non-skewed kind of a distribution, right? So that's not the expectation. If this was not the case, had it been the case, the sales was something like this, or the sales was something like this, right? So means that this was, let's say, the sales value was right skewed, or it was left skewed, it wouldn't have really mattered. Okay, because what we are trying to do is to fit the regression line, which we'll do at later stage. But just to clarify, this was never a requirement. We are just looking into the distribution to understand the data. That's all we are doing. Right now, finally, we stopped at this place, and this is where things started to get interesting. So let's try to continue from here. So what we looked over here is that if I take a line, let me take a line, and let me take a different color. Yeah. So if I fit a line which is something like this, if I fit a line which is something like this, and if I fit a line which is something like this, why I'm doing this is because if you see over here, I have on the x-axis my independent variable, on the y-axis I have my dependent variable. Why so? Because basis these marketing channels, I'm trying to predict, or I'm trying to estimate how much my sales is going to be. So if I increase, my question is simple: if I increase the investments into TV advertisements, is that going to increase the sales or no? I can see there is a very good relationship over here. Okay, we are going to further look into it, so there is no problem. But if you look at this, or this line, the idea of drawing these three lines was, this is also a linear line, this is also a linear line, this is also a linear line. Now, if you give this kind of a data set, let's say you give this data, only this much data, okay, to a Python code or an R code or any statistical software, or you give this one, right, or you give this one, it is anyways going to come up with this best fit line. It doesn't matter whether there is a strong relationship or a weak relationship, right? So what I mean by that is, let me change my color quickly also. So here the stagger of points is very close to the best fit line, but if I look at the other two cases, the stagger is actually higher, right? The stagger is actually higher, but that is not going to change the way we have seen gradient descent work, right? So usage of ordinary least square and gradient descent methods will still be applicable in these two cases, case number 2 and case number 3. And there, this kind of best fit lines will still be estimated, right? But it is entirely the end game, or where we come to a conclusion as a data scientist, whether or not we are going to use it or no, right? So that is the main objective. The main objective is not for us to use a function, that function gives me some output, and hence I'm done. I have to also determine that whether the model which is created by whatsoever language or tool or function that I've used is also giving me results which are formidable, right? So if you ask me, as we have seen in the last session clearly as well, this one is a very good fit as opposed to this one. I don't consider this as a good fit. I don't consider this as a good fit. I consider this as a good fit because the variation of data is much closer, much nearer to the best fit line, right? So the compaction is very good as opposed to these two. In this case, the spread is very big, right? And that's why this kind of best fit lines, in this case, let's say this one is radio versus sales. If I take any arbitrary value of radio, and if I want to estimate the value of sales, this estimation is not going to be very good, or it is not going to be very stable, right? But if I look at it from a mathematical point of view, this best fit line is actually the best line that can be fitted on this entire data set, right? So what I mean here is, given this data, I am able to create a best fit line using the mathematical principles I've already seen. Okay, so let's say that's the best fit line. So mathematically it is doable, but that does not mean it is business friendly, or that does not mean it is applicable. So the applicability is going to be different, right? Applicability is something which we have to infer. That's why we as a data scientist will come into picture. So software is never going to tell you more than the mathematical aspect. It cannot tell you the applicability. The applicability has to be figured out by us. But before we go in there, let's just try to write down our notes over here. Yeah. So what we have found, what we see in the pair plots above is that we have a very strong linear relationship between TV, budget for advertisement, compared to the output or sales of our product. Okay. Although there is a good, or there is a overall average and linear relationship between the radio and newspaper channels, and hence in these cases also we can mathematically get a best fit line. Okay, but for these cases the relationship will never be rigid, since there is a lot of variation or spread, I can say spread of data for these two cases around the regression line, right? Let's further continue our EDA with more correlations and its visualizations. Before we finally move over to regression analysis and modeling, right? So given this, let's try to do what we have already briefly done earlier, right? When we were looking into pandas, what we had briefly done is something like this, finding the Pearson's correlation. Okay, I'm not sure if we have done this earlier. Let me quickly check, but I don't think in this case we have done it. So let's quickly do that. So our data set is advertising dot core. If I simply do this, it's going to give me a table, okay, which is going to tell me what is the correlation. Okay, so this gives a clear picture of the correlation. If you see this number over here, there's a 90% correlation between TV and sales. Right, and this is the same number over here, because if you remember, I had already told all of you that anything above this diagonal line is actually a mirror image of what is below the diagonal line, right? So these numbers are actually repeating itself, right? It's like you can take this as a piece of paper, you can fold it across this line, and the numbers is going to be the same. So from here we can clearly see there is a good positive correlation. But does that mean we don't have a good positive correlation with the other variables? The answer is no. If you look at this, TV has good relationship with sales. What about radio? Radio also has a good relationship with sales. Newspaper does not have a very good relationship with sales. So obviously, more investments in newspaper will not guarantee good sales. Okay, first finding. Second finding, investment in radio might result well, but investment in TV is definitely going to result very good, right? So TV is like the best thing that we have found out. Investment in this area will be best. Radio is not so bad. I mean, I'm not going to say it is going to be bad. It's like not so bad. But this newspaper investment is worst. I mean, giving advertisement in newspapers about my product is not really increasing my sales. It's not really affecting my sales at all. So that's what we are going to clearly write down as our finding. Okay. But before we do that, let's visualize this correlation. Okay, just to inform you, I'm just using my a different laptop. I've moved over my workstation to a different laptop. So uh, I'm going to run a command now that might take a bit of a time. We'll wait. Yeah. So what we're going to do, we are going to take a heat map, and we're simply going to pass this value, okay, over here. Okay, so let me just paste it over here, and then I'm going to say plt dot show. If I do this, it's going to take some time, okay, but it's going to give me the numbers. Now here it's not giving me the numbers. There is a way to get the numbers as well. Okay, so there's an option here that you can put, by means of which you will get the numbers. Okay, but if you look at this, it is very self-explanatory. Anything which is going on a lighter color side is actually a positive correlation. So obviously each variable by itself is positively correlated, so I can ignore the diagonal. I can clearly ignore the diagonal. Anything on the top of the diagonal is actually a mirror image of the bottom of the diagonal. So this heat map is technically similar to the Pearson correlation table that we have seen earlier. The only thing this adds, or the value add here is, you can see there is a negative correlation block here. There is a somewhat positive correlation block here. And my goodness, this block is really, really very, very good because it is very close to 1. Okay. Also, there is a second thing to note. Now, here we have already found out what this block means. This is the relationship between TV and sales. We could already see that in the earlier. So you can use any of the techniques. Now, why I'm showing this to you is because this technique of displaying it as part of a heat map, any BI system or any dashboarding system also has this functionality, like Tableau, like ClickView, like SAP Business Objects, or like any other visualization tool that you might be using or we might be using in the industry. All of them have this kind of a functionality. So heat map functionality is there with almost all of the market leaders, which means that we can use them there as well. Or we can use it in our notebooks. Now, what is the advantage of using them in our notebook? Let me just clear the drawing and go back above. this representation of numbers will be very tedious for business people to understand. As of now, this will be very easy because there are only 4 kind of an array which we are looking at. Now imagine if we had 50 variables, it would have been very difficult, right? Instead, this visual format is really good. Okay, this is really, really good. Okay, that's the first one. That's the first reason why we are doing this. And then we have found out this thing, which is really very good. So that's finding number one from this graph. From the previous thing, we have already found 2 things or 3 things. From this graph, we have found the first thing, which is we can visually also prove the correlation. So TV is still my best candidate, right? The second thing I see over here, if you notice this line over here or this part, let me just clear. And if you look at this bar or this scale, there are things which are given positive values only. So it starts from 0. Let's assume this is 0. 0 to plus 1.0. This hyphen is not minus, right? That hyphen is simply giving you the scale. Okay, it is just the pointers or the lines which you find in your scale as well, right? So these are positive values, which means there is no independent variable which has any negative influence on the dependent variables. That's the second finding. Okay, had it been the case, there was any feature which had a negative correlation as well, my line would have looked like this. That this specific line would have looked something like this. I would have something like plus 1.0 here, and I would have had something like minus 1.0 over here. Okay, if that was the case, okay, and somewhere, let's say here, I would have, let's say 0, right? So if that would have been the case for any specific use case or example we are going to take in future, we can say in that case that there are certain set of variables which has some negative correlation, right? And there are certain set of variables which has the positive set of correlations. But in this case, there is nothing negative, right? Because we are concentrating more on single or simple linear regression, I'm not going to tell you about something which we are going to see during multiple linear regression, because that is not applicable over here. We are anyways taking this example to understand simple linear regression. We are anyways going to model our data or estimate or do the regression analysis using one variable and the output. So we'll have one independent variable, one dependent variable. We are doing all this analysis to find that one independent variable which we are going to use. Right? So before we forget, let's write down, okay, what we have found. Okay, clearly below is what we find. Okay, from the Pearson's correlation table, it is clear that TV advertisements are the best in case of, or are the best to improve my sales. Let me just scroll down. I'm not sure whether you're able to properly see it. So then followed by radio. Radio is also a good, okay, advertisement channel, but definitely not even close to that of TV. And the third was newspaper. Newspaper advertisements is, I should not be writing this, but just to make it a little funnier, is a waste of time and the resources. Okay, it is yielding a positive sales, but its value is too less, right? So that's what we find from the first thing or from the correlation table. The second thing, from the heat map representation of the correlation it is clear that, okay, it is clear that the first finding is all independent and dependent variables have a positive correlation amongst themselves. Okay, there is nothing negative. Okay, there is nothing negative. Okay, this is a good sign. Okay, this is a good sign. Okay, this is really a good sign, because in my business context, only limiting myself to this business context, I don't have any advertising media or advertising channels which may have even a distant or a remote possibility to have any negative effect on myself. This is really good. When we are going to present our findings to our clients, right, this is what we are going to say. Okay, what we are going to say very clearly, that they're doing a good job. The choice of investment channels, irrespective of how good or how good they are, let's say like TV, or how bad they are like newspaper, at least they are all positively correlated. They're not like negatively impacting the sales, right? So this is really, really good. The second thing we find is, again, we are able to prove that TV, I'll just take a copy paste, okay, because I know what I'm going to write over here, right? TV advertisements are the best to improve my sales, right? Okay, with this in mind, we can probably move over to our data preparation stage, followed by regression analysis. Okay, let's take a quick pause here. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
No, it's clear.
Okay, okay. Now, one thing that we did earlier, let me just scroll over just to clarify if we have done that. Yeah, we have given it a number, data loading and basic ED. We gave that as the first step. So let's try to follow that thing. So I'll say M and I'll do B. No, yeah. So here this is M, and yeah. Oh no, sorry. This should, yeah. Now this should work. Yeah. So and this should be M. Sorry, M, and the shortcut is M. So the shortcut I was just trying to type. So the second thing we are going to do, data preparation. Now this is something that I would like to explain first, and then we're going to look into this. Okay, so I'll write things rather than explaining, so that will be easier. So let me just go back to our notes and I will write it over here. Okay, 23. Okay. First of all, I will also write this over here. A general rule of thumb is to check all the statistical properties of all the independent and dependent variables given the use case. Okay, this may not have a direct impact on the analysis or the model. However, this stage, also called EDA, resolves most of the answers. Okay, I mean, if you look at our case also, we are still going to do a regression case, or we are going to do a regression analysis. But is that really required? We have already found out the thing, right? But we don't know, we just don't know how to do inference out of it. Had it been the question, I just need to find out what is the best advertisement media or what is the best advertisement channel I should invest in, we have solved the problem already. Okay, only by EDA you see I have solved the problem, but you won't be able to do any inference from here. You have to do some inference if you want to do some inference, right? If the organization wants to do some inference, how much should I invest in TV or TV advertisement? Or let's say if I'm going to say I'm going to spend I don't know, 1 rupee, okay, 1 rupee or 1,000 rupee or 1 lakh rupees in the TV advertisements. If I do that, how much sales can I expect? That kind of question is going to be answered by the predictive analysis or the machine learning use cases. Okay. So by doing EDA, we answer relative to use case questions while using predictive analytics and machine learning, which we will see later. We can answer inferential questions. Okay. Now, when I say this, it is to be noted, every such latter cases involves all the pre-known statistical tests we have encountered earlier and a lot more. What I mean by that is any regression analysis, any predictive analysis, any machine learning is simply built on top of what we have already seen, like f-test, t-test, p-value, alpha value, so on and so forth, type 1 error, type 2 error, all these things. These are the only basics which will get applied, right? These are the basics that will anyways be there. The only difference when it comes to machine learning will be with the design of the learning system, right? When we go into machine learning, we'll come to know. Let's not spend much time right now, but all I can tell you as a hint is that when you are going to do machine learning, the design in the way you are going to learn is going to make the difference in the implementation or even the choice of the algorithm which you use in that case, right? It is only that much of a difference. Everything else is what we have already seen, right? Everything else is what we have already seen. So other than the algorithm itself, by means of which, or the design of that algorithm itself by means of which we are going to do machine learning, is actually the different piece of thing that we need to know and how to do it well. That's it. But in case of inference, whenever we are trying to find anything, whether it is a probabilistic or a deterministic model, doesn't matter. The basic things are going to be the same. And that's exactly what we are going to do now. And that's exactly what we are going to see. If you remember in the previous days, we have already seen that scipy.stats.lin regress function. So we are not going to touch that here, right? Why? Because that was a black box. We simply passed on x and y. It gave us the slope, intercept, r-square value, so on and so forth, right? It gave us the p-value as well. It gave the standard error. It gave us 5 outputs. We don't know how it has calculated it, right? We don't know exactly what statistical test was done. Was that a t-test, right? Was that a f-test, or how the p-value came into picture, and so on and so forth, right? Detailed analysis was not presented to us, and that's exactly what we are going to do now. Okay. Before we go in there, the next point I wanted to write over here is that before we perform any inference or analysis or machine learning, we must prepare the data in the format we need. This involves a clear bifurcation of features and labels. Okay, features is the independent variables, labels is another name of the target variable. Okay, so this involves, or this step involves, a clear bifurcation of features and labels, and also their processing if applicable. Okay, in our case that might not be applicable because we have already seen there is no null value. Okay, there are not much outliers. Outliers were there, by the way, in the newspaper column, but we are not going to use that, right? In this case, we are doing a simple linear regression. We will use TV, we will use sales. So TV becomes my X, sales becomes my Y. In case of TV, in case of sales, I have no problems. I have no missing value. I have no outliers. I have no issues, right? So that's why our data preparation stage for this specific use case will be very limited. But in other cases, there will be missing values which we have to think about. There will be outliers which we have to think about. We have to first of all find out a way to calculate the outlier, something which we had learned during the basics of visualization when we looked into box plots, right? We have to find out the interquartile range, and using that as a reference, we can find out if there are outliers or if there are no outliers, right? But that's a later thing to do. In our case, that's not the case. Let's just save the notes and let's go back here. In this case, what we are going to do, creating an array of feature, right? So I'm going to call that X, and my data frame is this. I'm simply going to take TV, right? Let's see what value X has. If you print this, it is actually a list of all the entries in the TV column. If you take a type, it's actually represented as a series, right? Why? Because every column by default is represented as a 1D array in case of a pandas data frame, because you have imported it as a pandas data frame, right? So in this case, this becomes a series, which is nothing but a 1D array. That's all. It's not going to add much value. Okay, but we have seen what we have done. So let's just do the same thing, creating an array for label. In this case, my label, I'm going to call it Y, and the Y is going to be advertising sales, right? So I have X, I have Y. Let's try to see a very quick thing about X and Y. What we can do is something like this, a function which is called x.shape. It has 200 rows and only one column. So that's why 200 comma nothing. If I do a y.shape, it's also going to give me the same, right? So basically we have simply taken values of two columns. This is not going to be the case in case of multiple linear regression. In case of multiple linear regression, we will have multiple columns selected. Example, if I had selected multiple columns over here, first of all, I have to do something like this. Why? Because the outer brackets after advertising is the set of columns I need to extract. And the inner bracket is the list of those columns, right? So that's why we have to represent it like this. Let's say I'm going to take a radio as well. If I take a radio and then I look at this and I hide this part and I get something like this. So now I can see something after 200 comma. Why? Because those are the number of features that I have taken. This is a very quick check to understand if in your pipeline you have done anything wrong. Okay, that's all. There is no other thing to consider. Now what we are going to do, now that we have taken X, now that we have taken Y, what we are going to do, we will go back to line number 1 and we are going to import another library. Okay. We are going to import stats models. Okay, stats models is a very, very important library. I don't think I have that imported. Very good. Give me 2 minutes. Let me just do one thing. I don't think I installed it. So let me just install it quickly. So on a different window, I am doing this. Maybe you're not able to see this. Okay, so I'm simply typing a command, which is pip3 install stat models. Why don't I do one thing? Why don't I'm doing this? Okay, just to show you what I'm doing. Okay, I have simply done this, right? And it is downloading all the necessary packages, right? And it is trying to install it. So this is what you can do, or what we can do in the runtime as well. There is one more option to do this. It could have been done inside the notebook as well. Okay, using an exclamation mark. So if I take this line and put it as a cell inside my notebook with an exclamation mark at the beginning, right? Then it's going to run the same command in the backend. Okay, so I don't need to open this kind of a command prompt and do it. Right, so that is just to show you how things work. Give me 1 minute. Let me just see why I'm not able to share a desktop. No, there's some problem over here. I'll look into it maybe later on. Let's wait for 1 minute. I'm sure this will be completed and then we can continue. Okay, so what we are going to do over here is we are using stats models. Let me just come back to this page and let me quickly show you what stats model is. Okay, if I do this, usually stats models is searched along with linear regression. That's not really the purpose of stats model. So I can go over here and then change my URL. So stats model is actually a set of library which is given to do a lot of statistical modeling. And here you can see it has all the documentations. It can actually process a lot of linear and non-linear models, right? But it is effectively or most importantly used in case where we only have statistics to find the model and nothing else. So this is a very important thing to remember. If you look at anything or all of the different types of things it can do, okay, every of these statements have either the word linear or the word regression. Or the other way to look at it is this list does not contain anything, okay, that requires anything more than statistics, anything like, let's say, probability or advanced math and so on. Okay, but there are some other models which it supports as well. Okay, so simply put, we simply use the data and if fit that, and we are going to get a summary which is going to look like this. Okay, so this summary is like the OLS result, and that result is going to give us what is the independent variable, what is the R square, adjusted R square. We are going to talk about adjusted R square. Okay, we have not done that. And then it is going to tell us the F statistic. Okay, the probability or p value for F statistics. There are terms like AIC and BIC. This makes sense when we go into or into the multiple linear regression kind of thing. Okay, it may not make much sense over here. It's still installing. Let's wait for some time. And then here, for each and every independent variable, see x1, x2, x3 in this cases are the independent variables. It has calculated the coefficients. It has also calculated the constant. So this constant is what? This is my theta 0. This is my intercept. And these are my slopes. Theta 1, theta 2, and theta 3 belonging to three features, x1, x2, and x3. The standard error while calculating the coefficient, the t value. So it has performed a t test. It has got the t values. We can compare the t values against the t critical value from a t table, and we can find out whether this is relevant or not. But that's a difficult thing to do because it's a complicated thing. We have seen that using z-scores as well. So we can simply go ahead with the p value. If I go ahead with the p value, and because it is not explicitly stated, my alpha value is going to be 0.05. So wherever p value is less than 0.05, I can easily reject the null hypothesis, right? So this is the kind of output that stats model is going to give you, okay? And that is exactly what is going to help us understand the model rather than simply accepting it. In the first case, what we did, we simply understood it, right? We simply took it for granted, right? Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's come back. The installation is done. So I believe this should work now. Yeah, it has worked. All right, so I have imported stats models. Let's just go down, and here I'm just going to conclude this section by writing, since there are no missing values or probable outliers, I'll say probable outliers because I've not done any analysis with respect to outliers. I should have taken box plots, but I've not done that. So I'll say there are no probable outliers in our case with our feature and label. We can conclude here and proceed with the regression analysis finally, right? So let's go ahead. Let's take this as, sorry. Three, initial modeling. Why I say initial modeling or initial regression analysis, something you will come to know, okay, don't worry. Any modeling cannot be completed within one step or within one go. We create a model, we look at the output, we have to better something. So we get back to the data preparation stage again. Then we again come back to modeling. We do the modeling, we find out whether the new model is better than the previous model and so on. So in this way, kind of an iterative way that we need to follow. We can also automate this. And we have to figure out when we are getting a good model, in this case, because we are doing a simple linear regression, our R square value should be very close to 1, and our P value should be as much less as possible than 0.05. So if that is already the case with initial modeling, we'll stop here. But if that was not the case, we will improve things. Usually in case of such kind of toy examples, right, it may not be applicable. So we are going to take better examples, especially in case of multiple linear regression. And we will see effects of how we can reconvene data preparation process and use things like variance, inflation factors, and all those things, right? But in this case, we have a very simple kind of a setup. And what we are simply going to do, okay, is that we're going to take this and we are going to simply do the modeling, right? So what we are going to exactly do is we have to use stats models and we have to make the predictions. But before we do that, I have to go back again and I have to say statmodels.api as SM. I'm just going to pick a small name. Why did I use .api is because .api is that specific method which gives me the application programming interface or API to do the modeling. Okay, so that's why fully importing stats model is a waste of time for me right now. I can only select a specific thing which is .api and then I can continue. Now I have imported that as SM, so I can build my or build our first model, and I'm simply going to say my simple linear regression or SLR. Okay, the first SLR is going to be SM dot ordinary least square. This is what I'm trying to do. And then I'm simply going to pass X and Y. Right? I can simply pass X and Y. It should do the job. Then there is a concept of fitting the model. So I have to use a function called dot fit. This will not work. If I run this, it will not work. I'll tell you why. Stats model has a limitation. In our case, we have seen we had Y, which is, sorry, let me just clear this. There's some problem with my mouse today. So we have seen Y is equal to theta 0 plus theta 1 x plus error term, right? In case of stats model, this error term does not calculate explicitly, okay? Or the stats model library does not calculate, it does not take into account this error by itself. So what we have to do, we have to provide it, okay? We have to provide it with the constants. The constants has to be provided, some initial value has to be provided. Okay, so what it means that I have to provide some initial value of theta 0 and ERR, right? Now, obviously, I don't want any error in my model, right? So I'll basically assume I have no errors. Or I will let stats model do whatever it thinks the best, but I will assume the error in my model is actually equal to 0. But I have to provide something for theta. Let it randomly choose any value, right? I don't mind. Let it randomly choose theta is equal to 10. I don't know, right? And then let it do the calculation of my cost model using gradient descent. And then let it come back to the value of theta 0 when it has minimized the function or when it has optimized it, right? So that's exactly what we need to do over here. Let me close. Let me go back here. Why is it not working on? Okay, yeah. So I have to just say here, manually add constant to our feature since stats model does not do this by itself. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to use a function called add underscore constant. So what we are going to do, what is happening here? I don't understand. There's some problem. Yeah, I've got it now. No, no. Yeah. So I'm going to say x is equal to sm dot add constant. right? This is all I'm going to say. Okay, and in this value, in this bracket, I'm going to pass the value of x. So it has added a constant, and then if I print this, I'm going to get what it has done with my x. So I'm just going to execute this, and I'm again going to say a new cell. Please insert a new cell over here and print me the value of x. You see what it has done? It has taken a constant. Oh, I think we have taken TV and the radio. Let's get back. Should not be taking radio, right? We are doing a simple linear regression. Let's execute these two things, right? Let's add the constant and then let's see what it is doing. So it is taking a constant of 1.0. So it's taking theta 0 is equal to 1 and the value of TV, right? So I can simply say quickly recheck the values on my feature, right? Now we can build our first model. But when we do OLS, why do we have to fit? It is going to perform OLS to find R square and all these things. And then it has to fit the model to find the best fit line. Okay, that's the meaning of fit. The meaning of fit is to inform him to do an exercise to find the best model it can find with this data that I've provided. Right? That's all. That's exactly what it is doing. And it has created the model. Now, let's check the summary of the model output. Right? So I can say SLR dot summary. It should be giving me a summary of the model. Okay, but in this case, it is actually giving some errors. Why? Because of the formatting in which it prints the output. Also, because we cannot find the summary in case of stats models unless and until we have predicted the value. Unless and until we have estimated the value. So let's do that first and then we'll get back over here. How did I conclude on this? Is because if you look at this, right, if you look at this error, it is looking for a variable or it's looking for the output in certain dimensions, which it is not able to find, right? It's not able to find because there is no predicted ypred. So ypred we have not calculated. We have to calculate ypred, right? And then only it can do its job. So let's make the first set of predictions or estimations, right? So how do we do ypred? You can simply say ypred, right? And you can take this is equal to SLR, which is my model, and then I simply give the value of x, right? So it is now trying to predict, but it's not able to. I believe there is some error in my. Oh, okay. Sorry. I shouldn't have done this. This is a single variable. Let's start again. Let's try to see if this works. I have added a constant. 100 columns, 2 rows. Very good. X and Y fit. I'm doing a predict, but it is still not able to work. Why is that the case? Oh, sorry. Takes the Y variable first. I forgot this. Okay, takes the Y variable first. Then it does the prediction and then it does the summary. So now that it has given me the summary, and we are going to make an end here. So we'll just quickly look at the summary and then we are going to make a close and then we are going to come back. Okay. So I'll save this. I'll take a pen. I'm going to quickly explain you the things that I look for. First of all, I look for R squared or adjusted R square. What is adjusted R square? It is the R square divided by the number of samples. Okay. That's to make use of the degrees of freedom to minimize the error, which we have done earlier as well in case of the statistical test. We always divide by the number of samples or we divide by the degrees of freedom, right? In this case, the degrees of freedom of the model is 1 or that of the residuals is 198, right? Why? Because I have 200 rows, and 199 I can consider as a degree of freedom. But then it is dividing it basis two things, residuals and models. We will look into this later on. Don't worry. Now, it used least square, ordinary least square method to find the F statistic, which we cannot do anything with because we don't know the critical F value. But it has also calculated the probability of F statistic. This is my P value. Okay, this is my P value. If I look at this P value, and I have not assumed anything while doing the analysis, this is e to the power minus 74. So it is 10 to the power minus 74 of 7.93. It is very, 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 very less as compared to 0.05. That's why my selection of this variable TV is very good, which has a coefficient of 0.055. A constant, this is my theta 1. My theta 1 has converged to 6.97 with so and so standard error. These are the T values. The P values are very small. This means my model is really very good. Really, up to 3 places decimal, the value is 0. This is a very good indication. Very good indication that the model is good. Okay. And we have got the output, but we have also got some other things over here which we are not able to understand. What are these things? Omnibus, probability of omnibus, Darwin-Watson, Arcubera, and so on. So these are things that we are going to learn more when we dig deep into these kind of, let's say, models. But overall, I look into these basic things to ascertain whether I've done a good job. First, I will look into R square and adjusted R square. I will look into P value. I will look into the P values here, and my job is done. So if my job is done, then let me come down and let me write down the equation, and we are going to make a stop over here. Sales is equal to 6.97, okay, plus 0.056 multiplied by TV. This is my final model. What this means, 6.97 is coming from where? The coefficient or the constant theta 0, and 0.056 is the coefficient for TV, which I have rounded to 3 places. What this means is if I invest 1 rupee, okay, in TV, I get 6.97 plus 0.056. If I solve the equation, I get the sales. But we have to solve the equation taking into account the scale. So we go back and we look at the description. This is why we have written the scale. The scale is here. The media channel sales are in thousands of units and budget is in thousands of dollars. So TV value was in thousands of dollars and sales are in thousands of units, right? So what I can say is, I can say if I sell, okay, 1,000, okay, or if I invest $1,000 in a TV advertisements, okay, how many items am I going to sell? 6.97 plus 0.056. Okay, so it is like close to 7 or somewhat approximately 7, right? So approximately 7 items I'm going to sell for each $1,000 investment on TV advertisement. So if I invest $1,000 in TV advertisement, as per my model, I will sell 7 of my items, right? So that is the interpretation of my model, right? So I'm simply going to write this before we close. Our first model states for every $1,000 USD 1,000 spent on TV advertisements, we would roughly sell 7 of this is the quantity, yeah, 7 quantity of our product, right? So this is the output of the first model. Let me just put this into bold. Right, so this is the output of our first model. This is how we have understood the model. This is how we are going to present the model to our client, right? Let's make it a stop here. I'll stop the sharing. I'll send you the files. Okay, if you have any doubts, please do let me know. Let's continue tomorrow, same time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah, good night.